you know what? We're not living. We're not really living, are we, man? Unless we are in touch with our inner child. And not even that. It's more than that. It's when we become our inner child. So just think about a time where you allow yourself to let your mask come down all the way, and you can feel that spiritual energy of being a child again. And that's what it really is, isn't it, man? Being a child is very spiritual. Many people, maybe you've seen people say children are the best teachers because they just have pure wisdom, because they don't have the same kind of mind as an adult does. Really, you know that your soul is very much one with your inner child. Like, that's who you really are. And, on a deeper level, on a more metaphysical level, yes, you are everything. But I recently had this actually in a trip. I realized, as a human, I asked myself, what's the most important part of me as a human? And you know what came up? The inner child. What inspired this was two things. Number one, it was me getting in touch with my own inner child more and more and more, and really feeling my truth as a person. And, letting out this inner child, letting out this free, creative, flowy being that doesn't care about stuff and is just pure and it is alive. But also, it's like that contrasted against, that part of you that you might put on in a very kind of professional workplace context. It's very kind of like, and when I see this in people, man, and I can kind of, feel underneath their real inner child, it has me think, man, our culture is so excellent at making us repress truth. Because, and I'm sure you have this too, man, when you can feel someone underneath the mask, even if they're just doing it out of obligation or doing it because that's the role that they're fulfilling in that moment. Maybe they're meeting you at that place in that professional way, or they're emailing you in a formal kind of way. And you're like, dude, don't even worry about formality. Just show me a soul. That's how it feels. And one of the things that I found is if you can be with other people who reward you showing and being in your inner child, those are the people to be with. The thing is, you've got to stay in integrity with your spirituality, because for me, man, if I go back to my old habits and I'm with these brilliant people who I love, who are showing their inner child and they're being free and they're dancing and they're being spontaneous and authentic, I'm like, oh man, now I'm in judgment. I don't want to be in judgment. So I've realized I've got to stay in integrity with my life, with my commitment, with my my chosen way of living, which is spiritual and disciplined and integrous. Because I notice my ego is prone to being agitated by the freedom of other people. Really, on a deeper level, man, it's inspiring. I'm pissed off, but I'm inspired. But I don't want to be pissed off anymore. And I'd rather be, dancing with them. That's what I like to do. A little example of this, man, is when I'm with my brother. This doesn't happen too much, to be honest, man. But if I'm having just an off day, or I'm in my head too much, or sometimes I meditate quite a lot, right? And it can actually make me quite irritable. So if I'm not very free in that moment because I'm too sort of withdrawn, I'm like, oh man, damn it. Now that's not a bad habit. Meditation is good, of course, as you know. But it's about drawing yourself out, pulling that bit out of you that is true. It's true because your inner child, if you don't live in it, if you don't let it out, like all things, when something is really within you and something is actually true, it will leak out of you. So for example, notice that you might catch yourself just doing some weird thing on your own, like singing, dancing, saying weird voices, making weird noises. And you're like, this is an interesting part of me. I don't really show this to people. Why don't I do this? Oh, it's because I don't show it to people and it's coming out of me. Right? So that's one of the things I realized is that we are so weird. But weird is something that our culture has come up with. Because really, before that, before our culture has sort of indoctrinated us with BS, we are free. We are true. We are being. But through the filter of our society and culture, we call it weird. Maybe you've seen someone really just being themselves. And then maybe some other people around them are like, why is that? Really what they're saying with their energy and their expression is like, why is that person so free? Why is that person being themselves so much? That's not socially acceptable. Maybe you'll see the occasional person in the gym or something, and they're like, they're moving, they're dancing, they're feeling themselves. They're not necessarily in their inner child, they're just kind of free. And I say people, maybe it's actually you, or more specifically, maybe it's a part of you that is reacting, and it's reacting against this person being free. Now, as you know, all you're ever seeing in life is yourself. So when you see that person and maybe you're triggered, just think to yourself, why aren't I that person? And then maybe sometimes you are. Ideally, you are the person who is essentially just authentic, right? That's what you want, to be that, yourself. So anyway, man, going back to our inner child and how really this is a spiritual thing. The spiritual purpose of adulthood is to return to your child self. The key is to observe how adulthood has corrupted your child self and your inner child's free expression, right? Being completely honest, man, I realized I went a number of years without being able to be conscious of this part of me and how it was trying to come out. Like I'd notice, for example, and I love to play football. I don't really do that as much anymore. But when I would transform into someone. Or, I used to love when I was younger, man, is, those places where you can go where it's like in the UK. It would be so cool if you get this. And I don't know if it's active anymore, but it was called Snakes and Castles. And it's one of those places which is like an indoor play area with loads of structures that you can run up into, slides that you can go down, ball pits that you can dive into, trampoline type stuff. And that was just freedom for me. Oh, man. That was probably my favorite thing. Going to Snakes and Castles. It was the minute that my mum would let me go off, often with my brother. Maybe I was with my auntie or my grandma or something, and they'd say, all good, paid for, off you go. And I remember rushing to get my shoes and socks off, and I'd go and be, oh my God, I'm free. And I remember other kids watching me enthusiastically going down the slide, or just, I was free. I was kind of a pro. Another example, man, that I would love to share with you is a couple of years back, I did some work experience with teaching children how to ride bikes. I'm actually really good on my bike. I'm very fast, very agile, very in control. And yeah, I was teaching some children how to ride their bikes. And before we would get into the bike riding side of things, we'd just, play some games. And I've always been really, really good with kids. I've done loads of babysitting. I've always just been very, very good with children. And what I would do is when the parents would arrive and they'd drop the kids off, I would be the person who'd be leading the warm-up or leading the game, because you want to play a game before you do the bike riding stuff, right? That's what's fun. So often there would be a perimeter, and within the perimeter, we'd play a game. So for example, something like Stuck in the Mud. And what's cool is I thought the best way to lead is to participate. So I would join in. And to be fair, man, immediately what comes to mind is I remember absolutely taking out a few kids. It's when you appreciate that you're so much bigger physically than a kid. And so you've got to be careful, you've got to be delicate, you've got to be mindful to not annihilate this poor kid. The whole point I mention this is because I was really into it. I was super into it. And I did actually end up, Only on one or two occasions, to be fair. Like, bumping into or knocking, this kid. And immediately, man, I felt terrible. And I had to go down on my knee and just be like, oh my God, you're right. But who I became in that moment when I was playing that game was I was immediately transported back into my child self. And what I loved is the children, they saw in me that I was uninhibited. I was free. I was more free than them. Or I was on their, on their level of freedom. And so I was like, mirroring back to them. Yeah, let's be silly. Let's whoa, whoa, whoa. That's the way to do anything, man. In fact, like really how I define my own growth in the past few years is to realize that being not serious, being non-serious is such a gift. I'm naturally a very serious dude. I take myself really seriously. I have really high standards in life. So one of the things I realized, man, is just to be more free, to be more playful, to be more like a child. This is what in my own personal development, man, this has been so important. And that's why anytime I see an opening to be free, playful, silly, fun, I take it. And what I notice in myself as I say yes to these openings is all of a sudden my mind drops away and I take on this innocence, this playfulness, this enthusiasm for life. And really, it's happiness. I feel happy. Sometimes, man, when people say, yeah, I'm pretty happy, or yeah, I'm happy, I don't believe them. Because I study happiness. Interestingly, we can't speak about happiness, at least for me, we can't speak about happiness without it becoming more metaphysical and without us conceding to the fact that true happiness is not human, right? But on the human level, being your inner child, being happy, at least for me, is being outdoors, sun in my eyes, there's a bit of sweat on my skin, I feel endorphins rushing through my body, I feel like inviting anyone around me to come and play. So no boundaries, no us and them, no who's that guy walking past. Come on, brother, join in. And there's a purity in the soul. I mean, really the soul is pure already, but you feel purity in your soul, in your being. Man, that's the only way I can put it. And just notice that what comes through you and what you feel is what we could call a natural spirituality. So all the stuff that we do now, this sort of adult spirituality where we have to deliberately take time to breathe, to become conscious again, to contemplate, to do yoga. This is all very mechanical sometimes, but sometimes the most true spirituality will come through you, through the vehicle of your inner child. You will be in your inner child, and honestly, man, you'll feel like God. In fact, man, to really go deep with you right now, sometimes when I feel my most conscious, my voice literally becomes childlike. It becomes so soft, so gentle, so loving. And I remember how I felt as a child when I just was so close to unconditional love. It's just light. Man. And you know what's crazy? I used to not want to show this part of myself because I judged myself. My mind, which was so affected by self-judgment, pornography, sugar addiction, social media crap, that I didn't let this come through me. Also because I just wasn't connected to myself. The kind of life that I like to live these days, man, is a life where I lead with my soul. I lead with that inner child who doesn't care, who just loves, who's passionate about life, who is energized by doing anything. As you become more conscious, as you become more of a spiritual person, let your inner child surface. Show others, even those who are in their work self, in their corporate self, in their just repressed self, whatever, man. Show them your soul. Show them your light. Because everyone wants to be it. So be an example. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you can connect to my soul and my inner child. And you know that it's safe to do that. And that's why we're here. To, let that part of ourselves out. And to be free. My friend, lots of love. Take care, man. And as always, peace.